Greetings, my brothers and sisters. There's a political storm brewing in our community today. And here with your political weather report is the urban politician.
Abibi Fahodie, warriors. Abibi Fahodie means African liberation. I'd like to start this show with a quote from the book Iwa, which means good character in the Yoruba language, written by Mwalemu Barudi. The name of the quote, A Warrior's Character. I will not be intimidated by an enemy. I will show them no fear. I will not compromise the spiritual, cultural, and social integrity of our people. I will not retreat from battle except as a tactic to gain a decisive military advantage. I will train my mind, body, and spirit in the warrior methods of my ancestors. I will study other warrior methods only as a means of determining how to more decisively defeat them. I remember that those we consider the masters of death, destruction, and domination could never have defeated us without our assistance. They are not that good. I will never vent my rage against family. I will protect my elders, compliment, and children. I will show my people's enemies only the mercy they demonstrated toward our ancestors. I will listen to no other propaganda than that of the African warrior who came before me and who now stands at my side. I will not individually judge my enemy. Enemy is understood in the context of nations at war. I will always be on guard. I will always be prepared. I will never lower my eyes from the enemy. I trust only worthy Africans. A person cannot be your friend and enemy at the same time. Dismiss contradictory Africans. Every warrior has to prove his or her loyalty and worth. The history of treason is deep within our compromised community.
The American Negro collectively is richer than most nations of the world. We have an annual income of more than $30 billion a year, which is more than all of the exports of the United States and more than the national budget of Canada. Did you know that? That's power right there if we know how to fool.
We should own and operate and control the economy of our community. We have to become involved in a program of re-education to educate our people into the importance of knowing that when you spend your dollar out of the community in which you live, the community in which you spend your money becomes richer and richer. The community out of which you take your money becomes poorer and poorer. And because these Negroes who have been misled, misguided, are breaking their necks to take their money and spend it with the man. The man is becoming richer and richer, and you're becoming poorer and poorer. And then what happens? The community in which you live becomes a slum. It becomes a ghetto. The conditions become run down. And then you have the audacity to complain about poor housing in a rundown community. Why, you run it down yourself when you take your dollar.
Welcome to the show, warriors. Glad you could join me on our journey to liberation. The basis of this show is going to be about Abibi Fahodie, which means African liberation. During the show, we're going to chop it up, talk. I'll bring in guest speakers to help educate us, throw in a song about African liberation here and there, and hopefully continue to grow, all of us, including myself. I don't have all the answers. I'm a baby in this, as most of us are. But it's enlightening. the more that I learn about the ways of my ancestors, the better equipped I am to see through this matrix and to have a greater appreciation for who I am, who we are as a people. The more that solutions to our problems become clearer and clearer, and understanding why we're so disjointed, inability to unify as a collective, to set goals as a collective and achieve those goals, the dire need to support ourselves, particularly in business and growing an economy and standing up for policies that enrich that economy as a collective. That's what this show is about. That's what it's going to continue to be about. And God willing, throughout all the voices across the globe screaming for the same unification, at some point, our children will begin to take foot and be educated and start to turn this thing around. Because if we don't, we will continue to slip through this rabbit hole. Yes, this rabbit hole is right before our eyes. We all know it. We all see it. We don't know what to do about it. Worse yet, some of us are so caught up in me that we don't care to do anything about it. The ways of our ancestors wasn't about me. Everything was based on a collective. I am because we are. Therefore we are because I am. We understood that nothing existed by itself. Not humans, nature, animals, or the cosmos. Everything worked in unison. God is. God is in everything. His energy flows in every living thing. We're all connected, one way or another. Man doesn't stand on an island by himself. Our ancestors weren't primitive and uneducated and trifling or brutal. Extremely educated, extremely spiritual. Cultures that lasted thousands and thousands of years without any interference. Cultures that have been copied by Europeans and Arabs. This isn't about bashing Europeans and Arabs. They'll have their time. This is about us. This is about understanding that there is a greater philosophy, a greater way of life, a unifying spirit that our people live by, day in, day out, year in, year out, centuries in, centuries out. This is about understanding what that is, what that means to us, because it's within us. We just don't know it. It's been brought down through generations to generations to generations. We've all heard we're lost, not quite knowing what that means. I don't know my history. I know nothing about Africa. I know nothing about my ancestors. That knowledge has been cut off to me. We haven't been taught that. Today, there's really no excuse because the information is out there. Oftentimes, it just takes picking up a book and starting day by day, reading and studying. It's there. For the last 400 or 500 years, in this country anyway, we have been taught the ways of other people's ancestors. It's like a counter to everything that we knew as a people. And we have adopted those ways by no choice of our own. But we have integrated into this minority society. And I say minority society because Western civilization is a minority when you look at world populations. It's the most powerful at this point, but we've integrated fully into it. We've taken on the ways of others, and some think that that's a great thing. Oh, America's the best place to live in the world. If you don't think so, just try living in Africa. Wow. And that's supposed to be an insult? I forgot. If you look at the propaganda, everything about Africa is bad, ugly. We don't want to be associated with that. Think about that. I don't want to be associated with that which I come from. Because we relied on the images, the stories, his story about our own people. Anytime someone tries to tell you something differently, we look at them like they're crazy. It's not crazy. It's just he's telling us his story, his account on what took place. Think about that. We say so many times it's your side, it's three sides to the story. Your side, my side, and somewhere in between is the truth. It's no different with history. Everything we've been taught has been his story. We have yet to learn about our story. And our story is rich and spiritual and great. And if our youth had any idea or were taught, I believe, as well as many others, that they will begin to behave in a much different way. We have been fighting this battle for a long time, quite a long time. And we have been going along the ways of integrating, becoming more equal in the society, thinking that that will improve our collective plight. Integrationists have been winning this fight, while nationalists have become radical. I'm radical because I preach black pride and black history, or I'll say what that white man has taught us is a lie. That makes me radical. When history has shown us that it's not us that has been radical, it's been them. And I caution you, it's not all about them. I'll keep going back to that. A lot of it's us because there's no more excuse for that. We have to begin to look at what role are we playing in our own destruction and domination. We know who the masters of destruction and domination are. But how are we fulfilling that role? And when are we going to wake up, rise up, and say, no, we can't continue to have this. My father told me when I was young, didn't understand it then, but he looked at me and he said, you are my future. As I look at the kids today, and I say, they are our future, that can be a scary thing. Because what have we given them to advance the plight of our people? My parents, our parents, were continuing to fight for a better life for their children. My generation and the generations that has followed, we arrived We can get jobs and go to schools we want, buy homes and big cars. We're free. We haven't given anything to our children, no fighting spirit. And we wonder why they're going totally out of their minds. Not all. You have some that's doing the damn thing, getting educated, getting good jobs, but the multitudes of them, we see them every day. We become afraid of our own youth. How is that possible, that a people can become afraid of their children? Since when do the men of a culture allow such a thing? Since when have the mothers not educated their children in the ways of their ancestors? What's happened? We've lost our minds, yet we continue to point the fingers. These kids out here, I don't know what to say about these kids. These children are only a reflection of ourselves. So yes, it's time for all of us to learn the ways of our ancestors, because within those ways, we will find solutions, and we will understand how to dig ourselves out of this situation. We begin by first pushing through what's called the Ma'afa, the destruction, the Middle Passage, slavery. Oftentimes we don't want to deal with that ugly truth, but we must deal with that truth in order to push through that and realize the rich history that we have beyond that. Secondly, we have to become a Sappos. Sappho meaning a scholar warrior. We need to read, teach, and educate ourselves about the ways of our ancestors. Then we can begin to heal. It's like Sankofa. Go back and fetch it so you can move forward. At this time, I'd like to introduce another song that I like by True Mayasa and Bomani Omasa featuring Mwalimu Baruti. It's called Iwa Music.
The assault against African-centeredness is increasing in size and magnitude. There's a lot of fear in our community. There's a lot of need to be validated and loved by enemies in our community. There's a lot of need to run from who you are because it is something that you despise. Self-hatred and menticide are deep, and it seems like they're growing deeper. But what I see in front of me tells me that it's not victorious. If there's one person sitting here, then that means that we haven't lost. And we have a lot of work to do, and we need to focus our attention on our children, because they're the ones who are the primary targets. But now on this issue, and every other issue of insanity, it turns us into somebody who we are not. If we're going to win, we have to produce warriors.
Initiated, student of the Iwa, so baptized by the warrior teachers. I'm training, learning how to shoot the gauge while you burning safe, playing video games. This message here is for the RBG brigade. Shed blood, bring peace, that's the warrior's way. Libation is the blood, sweat, and tears. Ibaye, Hashe, I'm bringing death to the quiz. I wanna live, so I die for the kids. Back smack gangsters coming home from bids. Free your dome, you only hard to kill your own. A straight race traitor, the white man's clone. Burrito man, I'ma continue to plan. Choke the life out of a cracker with my bare hands. That's my word, my deed and my thought. From sun up to sundown, true warriors fought.
This needs to be emulated everywhere we are at. Those people who are calling themselves warriors, well, the root word of warrior is war. And either you're playing games and trying to be a fake thug, or you really are about the business of protecting your community because you realize that we are at war. And you act like we are at war, not like we are at peace.
Firm handshake, look a brother in the eye so I can tell if he fake. I can see through the disguise if he got a forked tongue, speaking disrespectful lies. Asata Baba Baruti, respect him cause he wise. Dropping wisdom on the pages, so stand up and be courageous. Our enemies engaging with grenades and shotty gauges, with machetes, with the razors, with the stick or with the stone, or bare knuckles to their faces. Got a hatred for the races, other times are for the traitors. Won't forget about the lynchings, how they fed us to the gators. Real gangsters protect their neighbors, won't betray us for some paper. Our secrets keep it sacred, our legacy's the greatest. Stay the greatest cause they haters, they some haters. I drop it like an anchor with the hopes that it'll change us. The artificial flavors, you wanna be a player while they hanging. So which team you playing for, the underdog or for the face?
Warriors are supposed to be about the business of defending those people in their community. They're supposed to be about the business of making people comfortable, giving them a safe space. People say warriors are healers, and they are. Sometimes healing is that tough love thing where you gotta handle people in a particular way. But our job is to make it so that our people will have all obstacles removed from their way in being African.
Tired of the same old air fresheners? Sankofa Oils and Products, your aroma burning oil for your home, business, and car. Packaged neatly in a 1-ounce spray bottle. We have an assortment of different fragrances for your delight. For more information, you can email me at info@sankofaoils.com, or you can actually order directly from the Facebook page, facebook.com/Sankofa Oils. Don't forget to like it. And by the way, you can also call me at 770-676-1459. We ship all around the country. Welcome back, warriors. Hope you like the cut. What are some of the ways of our ancestors? How did they govern themselves in the community? The men. The men were the defenders of the community from outside interferences. They taught their sons and their daughters trades. The women, the teachers of children, taught their children in the ways of their ancestors, educated them in the math and the sciences and spirituality. Can't forget spirituality. It was huge. From the time the child was in the mother's womb, that child was being taught from a spiritual sense. Everything was governed spiritually. The women also were defenders of inside the perimeter. When there was turmoil in the community, it was the women that called the men to arms. Something has to be done. We are being attacked. We are at war, either from within or without. Elders. We've always known in our community there's been a deep respect for elders, till recently. Something we have to go back to. But the elders were the arbitrators of differences and conflicts within the community. Families or clans came before the elders to find the proper way to handle conflicts. They were also disciplinarians. Young men and sisters, older men and sisters that got themselves into trouble came before the elders, like a board. The elders were the go-between between the people and the king and queen. We were a matrilineal society. The bloodline runs through the women. It's a lot of our ways that we need to go back to. Warriors, you'll notice I have referenced Mwalimu Baruti several times in this show. From a quote to a song. He has a series of books helping us to understand what it is to be a warrior. From Asafo, A Warrior's Guide to Manhood. And make no mistake, sisters, this includes you. To Centered, how do we obtain an African center, an African worldview? How is that different from a European worldview? To Iwa, good character. What is it to have good character with an African center? And Message to the Warriors. Great books, great reading. This literature is a guide for us to follow, a guide to take us back to the ways of our ancestors, amongst plenty others. For you history buffs, for those that wonder, well, how did we find ourselves in this position? How are we conquered as a people? Why was it so easy? It wasn't easy. It was wars fought for centuries. But if you want to learn the history from an African-centered perspective, from our scholars, our story versus his story, I think there's several good books. The Destruction of Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. Introduction to African Civilizations by John G. Jackson. There's plenty of information on YouTube. Although I'm not a big YouTube fan, I watch it, but it's like anything else. The book is always so much more detailed than the movie. Plus you gain more insight from the book. You feel its energy. You grow. Oftentimes you can't get that from a movie or a video. But John Henry Clark, Dr. Asa Hilliard, there's several of them out there that you can search the internet. It's there for all of us, because it is time for us to start to seek different solutions to our problems. We've been fighting these same battles here in America for the last 400 years, and the last 150 years or so of so-called freedom. Yet, we are no further along than we were at the end of slavery. Do you realize that our net worth is not greater, collective net worth that is not any greater today than it was in 1890? That should really blow your mind. Why is that? We have athletes and entertainers making millions and millions of dollars. We have a so-called strong middle class living decently. But it's not about how much money you make. It's about your net worth, land, value. We're no further along. We spend $1 billion a year consuming, yet less than 1% of that income comes back to our community. Less than 1%. Think about that. Who are we enriching? Not ourselves. What jobs are we providing? If we spend more money within the community, prices will come down, job opportunities will become available, our neighborhoods will start to look like something we can be proud of, and crime will come down. Crime. Warriors. We have to redefine what that means. We're not soldiers. Soldiers take orders. Warriors lead. We need to redefine that within the community. So something, again, that we can be proud of, that our children can be proud of, that they can learn from and grow into being a warrior, defending one's community, not tearing down one's community through the sale of drugs, the disrespect of our sisters, the lack of getting a good education. Think. Let's try something different. Different being, let's go back to our way. It's time, past time. I'll keep saying that because it's in my head. Time, past time. This is going to conclude my first show. I have some shopkeeping things we probably need to go over. Advertisers. If you're interested in advertising on the show, contact me at info@urbanpolitician.com. The show is not about really making money. It's more about providing info. But if you have a product that you're trying to sell, a black-owned business, where you're trying to reach the community, this would be a good place to start. This is my first show, ladies and gentlemen. It's not perfect, but it'll get better with time. I'd like to thank all the people that inspired me. My boy Moya, Devan. They were the first ones to say, hey, you need to do something. I wasn't thinking on that level, and I've been thinking about this for a year. My producer and engineer, my guy. If it wasn't for you, I couldn't bring this project forward. Ronnie B., love you, brother. We'll be back next week with another show. Alafia means peace in Yoruba.